Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. Hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
And today we get Plane Shift with IXALAN. We're exploring Magic the Gathering and mashing it with Dungeons and Dragons.
Jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
Alright, IXALAN. The next Plane Shift is out, and you went and got yours printed out from the printer.
It's so much easier to look at and evaluate, and the art is just so awesome in these things that it's worth it to just be like, all right, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah. So James Wyatt used to be on the D&D side of things, is now on the Magic side of things. So he's a perfect guy to work on this project. You know, he does a little preamble beforehand. This is the largest one they've done. You know, it has got a lot of gorgeous art in it. It's got factions in it. It's got new monsters. It's got races. It even discusses a little bit how you might cross over or use the races from the other plane shifts. And is this like number 4 or 5 for plane shift now?
I think it's 5.
Yeah, we've got quite a few of these. Like soon, they could put together a really nice hardback Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons book if they wanted to.
I think they could, and I think they should. But it actually ends with talking about the Magic the Gathering color wheel and how it would be influenced in D&D, or how it would be influenced by D&D. So I think it's actually pretty interesting. The first handful of pages talks about the different factions, as they're very prone to do now. We got these charts with ideals and bonds for each of them.
Yeah, essentially it just allows you to mix and match your character traits for your personality and that stuff with the factions instead of your class.
And it's got suggested backgrounds, it's got suggested races, and suggested classes that you can actually take. So having that be like, oh, you want to be part of the Sun Empire? Well, you're not going to be a tiefling. You're not going to be a wizard, because that doesn't fall into the scope of what's in this world.
Right. You're going to have to work a little harder to figure those things out. So it does give you a suggestion of guidelines. I love the Merfolk from Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. They're so colorful and cool looking.
That they are. Merfolk is part of the River Heralds. A lot of the humans belong to the Sun Empire. We have the Brazen Coalition, which are essentially pirates. They tried to play nice, and everybody else said no, so they said, screw it, we're going to go to piracy. You also have the Legion of Dusk, which is led by vampires.
Yeah, so there's basically like a quadrant of regions that you can come from. Obviously, you're going to have to think of a reason for your adventure party to be together if you're from different ones. What would be a lot simpler is for everyone to be from the same region.
And it actually gives you ideas of how to put them together if they're actually not.
There's a short list of here's some different things that you could use to get them together if you're the GM. It's super helpful. And it also, even if you don't use them, it might give you some ideas.
Jumping back real quick on the Legion of Dusk, they are lawful evil vampire as a race, paladins for the most part. And they actually do have a little sidebar for the tenets of blood. It's honesty, courage, honor, and duty. So it's like, these don't sound like very vampire traits at all, but within the tenets of their religion, it's pretty darn amusing.
Yeah, there's that, and it's like, and most of the time, these are Oath of Devotion. If you're using Zathar's Guide, Oath of Conquest might be better, though, is kind of what they say.
So we get into the actual races of Ixalan. You got humans, play them right out of the player's handbook. Does not mention anything about the variant. So you got to use that as is. You got your Merfolk, and you got 2 different options.
Does James Wyatt show up to your house if you don't use it as is?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, you said you had to.
Oh. So Merfolk come in 2 varieties, and
2 flavors, if you will.
Even though they say that they stand between 7 and 8 feet tall, with skin ranges from deep burgundy through many shades of violet and blue to green to bright orange and yellow, their sub-races are determined by where they spend time. You've got the green Merfolk, which spend more time on land, and you have the blue Merfolk, who spend more time in the water.
And surprisingly enough, One is blue and one is primarily blue and one is primarily green.
But you can still have all of these beautiful colors that Dave was talking about mixed in, regardless of which Merfolk subrace you wind up going with. As a Merfolk, you get a charisma bonus by 1, and then your subrace determines whether you're getting your bigger bonus to wisdom or to intelligence. Both subraces wind up getting some cantrip spell casting. Green Merfolk get a druid one, whereas a blue Merfolk gets a wizard one. As I said, they're 7 to 8 feet tall, but your size is medium. You get a swimming speed and a walking speed of 30 feet. You can breathe both air and water. If your campaign world uses common, you get it, Merfolk, and 1 additional. And then the blue Merfolk also get proficiency in history and nature, whereas green Merfolk get the ability to hide when only lightly obscured by foliage, heavy rain, falling snow, mist, and other natural phenomena.
Essentially the Wood Elf ability.
Essentially. So then we go on to Vampire, and this is not the vampire out of your monster manual. This is the vampire from IXALAN as an actual race. You get Charisma by 2 and Wisdom by 1, which I find shocking. I really thought it would have gone Strength, but
Or one of the other physical stats, yeah.
they don't age. Their alignments lean towards lawful, maybe towards evil, but they're definitely lawful. You are medium. You have a walking speed of 30. You have dark vision out to 60 feet. You resist necrotic damage. You speak vampire, and if your campaign world supports it, common. And then you have 2 special abilities. You have the Bloodthirst, which if you take someone who is grappled, incapacitated, or restrained, you can make a melee attack on them doing 1 point of piercing damage and a die 6 of necrotic. The die 6 of necrotic, their hit point maximum is reduced by a like amount, and you gain hit points equal to that die roll.
So it's life drain that a lot of the undead get in the monster manual.
The reduction lasts until the target finishes a long rest. If the target dies, if this effect reduces its hit point maximum to 0. Feast of Blood. When you drain blood with your Bloodthirst ability, you experience a surge of vitality. Your speed increases by 10 feet. You gain advantage on strength and dexterity checks for the next minute.
So, you feel refreshed after a drink.
Absolutely. So we get Orc, and while this is not necessarily the Orc of the D&D world, we're used to the greenskins. Here, their skin color ranges from light brown through to gray to almost jet black, and it's just a half orc out of the monster manual, out of the player's handbook.
Yeah, because the orc in Volo's Guide kind of stinks anyway, and I'd rather play a half orc.
Yeah.
And apparently James agrees.
So then we move on to Goblin, and here's where we're seeing some distinctive changes from the Goblin that's in Volo's Guide. Number 1, these guys are more like monkey creatures than goblins. Dexterity score increases by 2. They are small. They don't have any inclination towards good or evil, but they tend towards mischief, so they're going to be chaotic. Your speed is small. Yeah, your size is small. Your speed is 25. You get a climbing speed of 25, and you can't do so while you're wearing medium or heavy armor. If you're using the encumbrance rule, you can't be encumbered and climb. You get dark vision out to 60 feet. You get common, again, if it supports it, and goblin.
Yeah, so they're kind of like a weak version of the goblin. They look a little bit different. So it's another goblin option if you want to use it, and if you're playing IXALAN.
Yeah, to me, I'd be like, I would call these like monkey men more than goblins, because the pictures don't support them being goblins. The climbing thing, the tail, to me, that just doesn't speak goblin.
They look like little monkey people. Now, I think the next one is like kind of the most interesting of the lot, and that's the Sirens.
So we get on to Siren, and I think this is something that was a pretty cool addition. Sirens have been in Mythos, since time began. You've got, Sirens in Magic the Gathering all over the place. So it only makes sense that they would finally make it into an actual book here. So your charisma increases by 2. You lean towards chaotic because you prefer freedom and independence. You're 5 to 6 feet tall, size is medium, walking speed of 25, flight speed of 30. Again, see that encumbrance rules if you're using it. Siren Song, you know the Friend's cantrip and can cast it without material components. You can speak, read, and write common, again if it supports it, and Siren. So I think the Goblin and the Siren wind up falling on the weaker side of the races here. I don't know how you feel about that.
They do. They're kind of being like undercompensated for flight and the climb speed. It appears because they only get the one stat bump. They're both kind of interesting and fun additions, but you know that they could be used being brought up to where everybody else is.
Give them a skill and call it done.
Yeah.
Like,
well, not even a skill. I would just like the other stat bump.
well, I mean, I would have no problem giving them either, or both.
Yeah.
So then we get to the land of the Green River.
Well, before we get to that though, like it kind of talks about all the previous plane shifts and the different races that were introduced and how they might be, how they're different, and it kind of like calls out those differences. So there's a little primer if you wanted to use the other ones as well. So that's in there as well. So now we get to the land of the Great River.
So IXALAN is a land of dinosaurs, and we definitely get into that. The actual map of IXALAN is actually really cool, and it gives you a lot of spaces that stuff is, and it actually specifically calls out, earlier in the book that there's a lot of space that there isn't something. So feel free to add as you see fit to make this your own when playing in it.
I really dig on the fact that it has the inner sea. It's really cool. So it's a vast sea, but it's kind of landlocked.
So you have, a variety of different places that you can actually get into and explore. There's treasure tables for you to play with.
Yeah, so essentially they take things from the IXALAN world, from the cards, and kind of introduce them here so that you're not just giving out regular treasure, but maybe if your players are familiar with the Magic of the Gathering and IXALAN, they might receive mundane treasure that is going to be recognizable to them.
Right. So then there's also a table for magic items and who actually created it.
Who actually created it, and some of them are like minor abilities that kind of go along with the magic item.
So you've got whether it was made by the Sun Empire, whether it's composed of dinosaur by the River Heralds, the Brazen Coalition, the Legions of Dusks, the Coatl. Is it demonic? Is it made by dryads? And each of these things, as we said, has a little bit of nuance to it. So if it's made by a dryad, the item is exquisitely crafted from wood, leaves, or vines. It is adorned with symbols of nature, leaves, vines, stars, and the like. It glows with a pale radiance in moonlight, shedding dim light in a 5-foot radius. So like you could have the players wander into an area and the bowl that's in the middle of this open glaive is glowing in the moonlight, and you might not know what it is, but that would be why. So then we get to, as we always have, the IXALAN Bestiary, and I love the fact that they keep doing this. It's like, oh, well, we've got these monsters that we've made. Well, this is the closest thing. Just use those stats, and it's just
from
great.
Your monster manual or from Volo's guide.
Yeah.
So this way they're not reinventing the wheel. They're just like reflavor it a little bit here and use this.
So your Brontodon from Magic the Gathering obviously is just going to be a Brontosaurus. And then we get into, like I said, a lot of dinosaurs in this stuff. So the Triceratops makes for a Ceratopses without a problem. Your Ankylosaurus is an Aegisaur. Your Stegosaurus is your Armarsosaurus. The thing that I found the most amusing was the Hammer Skull. They just said, use a giant goat. I'm like, that's hysterical.
Well, one of the things I love about the dinosaurs and all the imagery and the pictures they're using the brightly colored and feathered dinosaurs. So which is great, especially when they're mixing with the feathers, all these spines and armor plating. Just looks fantastic.
Absolutely. So, IXALAN is a free download. over on the wizard site. So there's no reason why you shouldn't just go and download this and check it out.
And steal everything, steal all the things.
Again, they're just showing, time and time again, you want to use this, here's what you can use. The giant sailbacks that are in the river, just use the giant crocodile. That, we get our first new stat block, and that's the frilled death spitter.
God, I love me some frilled death spitters.
So you got a new challenge half, multi-attack, 3 attacks, 1 with a bite and 2 claws. So that's pretty crazy on such a small, challenge monster. And then it's got the ability to spit poison, as you would expect from the name Death Spitter.
And it's also a beast, worth noting.
Yes, worth noting for those druids out there.
And because it's a half, it's a little bit. It's just out of the reach of the ranger, I think, but definitely within the reach of the druid that's wild shaping.
Absolutely. So then we get into some of the big stuff. So Gishath's son's avatar is a gargantuan beast, challenge 10. Although part of me thinks that should probably be a little bit higher, considering some of the stuff that this thing can do. But it's essentially a legendary T-Rex, and I don't really need to go into much more depth than that. It's gargantuan. It's got a low armor class, but I mean, most of the beasts do. But it's off the charts with, some of their saving throws. So you're not going to be pushing this thing around, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, then you get into the Elder Dinosaurs. And it's interesting the way they did it. They did a summarized stat block, and these are unique creatures, and this stat block represents 6 of them or 5 of them, something like that.
There are 6 of them, and you have this blanket chunk, and then you add on the features for each of the 6 specific creatures, and they're not beasts. They are gargantuan monstrosities that fall under the Titan class.
So what you're saying is your druid can't wild shape into these.
Especially considering it's a challenge 30.
Come on, that's only a 90th level moon druid.
So
But it doesn't matter, it's a monstrosity.
it's a monstrosity.
Look, these things are friggin' awesome looking. There's this spiny looking sailback dinosaur thing that literally has a storm going on around it. Lightning is arcing off the spines.
Yeah, that is Itali the Primal Storm. So the Elder Dinosaur is always accompanied by a raging thunderstorm similar to the effect of a Call Lightning spell. A storm cloud in the shape of a cylinder that is 10 feet tall within 60-foot radius instantly forms 100 feet in the air over the Elder Dinosaur when it's angered or becomes violent, as long as it's outdoors. This thing can't be indoors.
Well, that's what I mean. Where is it going inside? That was the first thing I thought as well.
On each of its turns, as an action, the Elder Dinosaur can choose a point it can see within 120 feet of it. A bolt of lightning flashes down from the cloud to that point. Each creature within 10 feet of that point must make a DC 20 saving throw, taking 6d6 lightning damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one.
I really like that one, and then the other one I really like is the Zakama. It's like a 3-headed T-Rex.
Zakama, the Primal Calamity. So this thing is, just all about the bite. So the Elder Dinosaur can use its frightful presence. It then makes 5 attacks. 3 with its bite, 1 with its stomp, and 1 with its tail. It can use a swallow instead of a bite.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all of these. They all get 5 attacks. They do a lot of damage. They can swallow you. They can hit you with lightning bolts. Definitely, it's a great addition because if you want a monster that's the Tarrasque but not the Tarrasque, these would be a great replacements.
So the Primal Storm, it can use its frightful presence, then call down 2 lightning strikes from its lightning storm. It then makes 3 attacks, 1 with a bite, 2 with its claws. So they all have, these massive impacts that it's got the ability to do.
And they all can swallow you. So if they do grab you with the bite, and then they can just swallow you, and you have to deal with that. So that's really cool with these guys. They're a great addition to the higher levels of any campaign. So from there, we start getting into some other monsters.
We got talking about quaddles and sunbirds. So the sunbird, we have another new stat block. It's a challenge 13. It's got some nods to the actual phoenix itself.
And that is also a monstrosity.
So yes, that's another one that your druids are not turning into. Then we get into some other things talking about demons and harpies and night terrors.
And chupacabras.
And then of course we get the chupacabra, which is amusing because like you could totally do that old play on the chupacabra for like a first level game, and you wait until they're actually able to handle a challenge 3 monster, and they could actually hunt it and end the threat.
So yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff you can add into your game from there.
And then they get into, more of the use this, use that. Elementals, some different animals. They've got in this world griffins that look, vastly different from the griffins we've seen, which, kind of speaks to me to the Atlas Animalia.
Yeah. Basically griffins with like giant parrot heads and leopard bodies instead of what we're used to. So that's kind of cool. Just a little reskinning. And they're also like, hey, they're stone guardians. Most of them are inert now and just junk, but every once in a while you're going to run into one,
and it's not inert,
and it still works. So they tell you what different monsters to use for that.
Whether it be animated armor, helmed horrors, shield guardians, and stone golems make perfect guardians. And here's where we get into the actual, appendix of the colors of magic. And if you're not very familiar with the color wheel, you've got white, black, blue, green, and red. And anything that's across the color wheel is kind of like your anathema, your enemy. But that's not saying you couldn't mix the two. And they go into essentially, if you have a D&D character, you can mix them with the colored mana to use a different alignment system, and it would definitely make for a different setting for you. And then from here, they talk about, well, what happens when the colors mix.
Yeah, it also goes as far as to replace your personality traits, your flaws, your ideals, all that stuff with mana colors as well. So you can also flavor your game even more with Magic the Gathering.
Absolutely. And I mean, you could go so far as to have like visible signs for these colors on your character, whether you openly have that blue teardrop, as an amulet, and you walk around, well, I'm a blue mage, or I use blue mana, however you wanted to do it, and then people will know, oh, well, you care about the seas, or you care about, mind magic and the like. It's a very, very cool thing that you could do and change things up.
I feel like for the price tag, you get a fantastic product which has tons of stuff to steal and put in your D&D game. Even if you do not want to play Magic the Gathering D&D, you just want to steal monsters. The table for where did this item come from is very usable. All the treasure tables, if you just want to spice up your treasure as a GM, the monsters, fantastic addition to your game. But guys, what do you think? We got a place where you can discuss it down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.